And then if you could just press OK, that would be wonderful. Alrighty then. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and start. Hi, my name is Rachel Young Sato. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Career Development Program Manager at the Evans School. So there's a chance if you are an Evans student that you might be seeing emails with my name on it. This is my face. Now you have a face to the name. One of the things that I do is put on career events for all of our Evans communities. So that's undergrad, grad students in our MPA programs. Certificates are also welcome to join as well. And I also do one-on-one appointments. So today, what we're going to talk about is the start of our undergrad foundations workshop series. While this might be a little bit geared towards undergrad, I think this can be helpful for anyone who's considering public service and policy. So um, take it as a starter to the conversation. So to begin, I want to share that we are going to talk about framing a little bit of how to look at career development, to just kind of set the stage for the rest of the conversation. What is public service, how to explore careers, and then some career options in public service and policy. So I want to start off with a framework. I think a lot of folks, when they think about career services or career development, you think about resume reviews, interview prep, maybe a networking session, or you think about those really large career fairs, wearing business suits. I really like to think about career development in two buckets. And so one of those being skills building. And I definitely think that resume, cover letter writing all kind of lives in that area. And then the other part of career development that often I think needs to be recognized a little bit more is self-reflection. And the reason for that is what happens when you have all your application materials, you're sending out all your applications, you get the job, you get in the job, and then you realize, oh no, this is not what I thought. This is actually, it doesn't fit my personality. It doesn't fit my values and my morals. And so I think what's really important is having reflection in addition to skills building. And so some of that is going to be what we talk about today, as well as in some of our future events. But today is a little bit of both. So I wanted to start off with this might seem pretty like common knowledge to you, but I think even just having it laid out is helpful. This is a model for being able to think about making decisions. Maybe decision making is really easy for you, and maybe some of us have ADHD and it's hard to make a decision. So I think it's helpful to kind of see it laid out in this way. So the CASIV model stands for communication, analysis, synthesis, valuing, and execution. And so the first one, communication, knowing I need to make a choice. Maybe that's, I need a job. I'm about to graduate. I need a job. So that's what you know. You're like, what do I do next? Maybe your thought process is, I'm going to Google, look at Indeed, LinkedIn, Handshake, Glassdoor. Uh, but maybe that's not the first step to take. The step that I like to kind of sit in our career events and talk about with my students is analysis, understanding myself and my options. So that's kind of where we're sitting here today, is in understanding reflection. How do you know yourself? What do you know about yourself? And then after understanding what are some of my values, what are the things that I care about, is also thinking about what options do I have? Just looking at the whole scheme of options. Then from there, we can move to synthesis. Okay, maybe we narrow it down. Maybe we don't look at every job that has to do with the government, or every job in nonprofit. We're looking at the city of Seattle, and we're looking at particularly this area. Then we're going into valuing, choosing an occupation program of study or job. So maybe that's a particular job title you're looking at. And then implementing your choice. You apply. And then if you don't hear back, you can start all over again or go back to your options and start the process over. So this is just a little bit of framing on how to make decisions. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of defining the terms. So what is public service and policy? I'm going to let our lovely friend Hank Green talk to us about it.
Policy is what the government does or doesn't do to solve problems, address challenges, and generally make things happen. It's basically the rule book for the game of life, not the game one where you drive around in a tiny car collecting paydays until you hopefully get to retire at millionaire estates. Public policy is made of stuff like laws and regulations and budgets and plans and sometimes even unwritten rules like social norms. And those rules cover like basically everything. Education, the environment, labor, technology, food, healthcare, social security, the internet, and on and on. Any system you can think of is probably governed by some kind of public policy. It gives people a framework spelling out what they can and can't do to achieve their goals. And unlike the rules of the game Monopoly, good public policy is designed with people's best interests in mind, so they don't wind up bankrupt and watching for hours as the one remaining small-time landlord has his resources siphoned away by the billionaire hotel tycoon. And public policy doesn't just come out of nowhere. In the most official sense, it is made by policymakers, government officials from school board reps to congresspeople whose job it is to come up with laws and regulations. But all kinds of other people play roles in public policy too, like community activists and organizers might be the ones who recognize a problem in the first place, and nonprofits, political parties, and journalists can all be part of the pressure cooker working to influence policymakers into making changes. Researchers or specialized task forces also help come up with specific solutions and formulate policies they hope will actually work. A lot of times, making new public policy involves overhauling what's already there. So researchers and policy analysts look at existing public policy to see how well it's working and make recommendations about how it could be better. Majoring in public policy prepares you to get in on all the different parts of that process. It gives you the tools you need to take on big problems impacting the, public and figure out solutions to make a real positive impact on the world. So, if you want to make changes that benefit real communities, let's get into what a public policy major really looks like. Public policy is interdisciplinary. It takes lots of pointers from related fields like history, economics, politics, statistics, philosophy, and psychology, and it branches off into tons of different types and specialties. So majoring in public policy can seem like a huge, complicated journey. After all, you're supposed to learn how to craft good policies, figure out how well they work, predict how they'll interact with politics, and understand the social issues they're based on. That's a lot to learn about. But luckily, most public policy programs are designed to make your life a little easier, unlike certain infamous board games about capitalism. Like, you'll probably start out with some core classes that will set you up for success. You might take a class like Intro to Public Policy, where you'll learn the basics of policy in the public sphere, and you might also take introductory classes in related fields like history, politics, or economics to help you understand the context and systems that public policies interact with. You'll probably public policy because that's what they want to do. They want to change the world. They care about fairness, justice, and community, and want to make the game of existence more fun for more people. Although, maybe a little less Settlers of Catan and a little more Candyland. If you're a big picture thinker who wants to do some good out there, public policy might be a great major for you. And the same goes if you're really passionate about a particular issue. If you got big feelings about climate change or immigration reform, or whether a single person should be able to buy all of the real estate in Atlantic City, public policy is a way to put those feelings into practice. And it's also like a pretty passionate field, so you shouldn't be surprised if you run into people who feel differently about things than you do. Good policymakers are usually good collaborators. They can see different sides and find solutions that work for lots of different people. So if you're a jack of all trades type who can wrap your head around Bayesian statistics just as easily as American history, you will be able to put all of your talents to good use. But by that same monopoly token, public policy is hard. It takes a lot of learning and practice in a lot of different areas. And even after college, working in public policy means you'll constantly be finding new things to learn and problems to solve. So if you don't like that process, it might not be the right fit for you. And if you tend to shy away from conflicts and debates, it also might be downright overwhelming. Even if you love everything about it, public policy can be just plain frustrating. Whether it's winning over a classmate with your well-researched argument or fighting on the congressional floor to get a new law passed, making real change is hard. You'll be up against all kinds of bureaucracy and red tape and rules that you really want to change. And when those rules don't always change as fast as you'd like, it's easy to have flashbacks to watching someone else collect $200 while you kept paying income tax and going to jail.
I'm going to take a pause there. Thank you to our friend Hank Green, and thank you for bearing with me with technical issues. That kind of gives a little bit of a glimpse of hearing from someone else of what public policy is. Maybe you are pretty familiar with it. I knew that I wasn't very familiar with exactly what it was not too long ago. But I want to also hear from folks, what does public service mean to you? So there's kind of this twofold. We were talking about public policy. Lots of times when you're studying things in public service, you'll most likely hear about policy as well. So specifically, the term public service, I'd love to hear what it means to you. So, oh no, you're going to have to interact. Sorry. If it is just a three-person conversation, four-person conversation, that is totally fine. If you have your phone available, please scan this QR code, or you can just go to menti.com. I'm sure that you have probably seen this at some point before. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to pull out your phones, take a photo. Then we're going to move on to the Mentimeter. And so if you do not use the QR code, you can look it up, menti.com, and use this code over here. And I'd love to just hear from some folks. What does it mean to you? Making a positive change in the world. Yeah, it's a good one. I think when I'm able to chat with students who are coming into the Evans School, a lot of folks are saying, I want to make a change. Sometimes they're coming in with no work experience. Sometimes they're coming in with 5 years of work experience, and they're saying things are not working, and it's not working in the way that I think, we can make improvements on. So they want to be a part of that change. Creating pathways for folks who may not have a voice. Yeah, definitely. There's lots of different marginalized communities that have not been able to necessarily been able to have some of the systems work well for them. Public service is responding to the needs of the people in my community, serving in communities that you care about. Yeah, those are all wonderful and great answers, and it's nice to kind of get a gauge of the people we have here. So don't scroll on to the next question in the Mentimeter yet. We're going to get back to it. So very similarly to what all of you said, from some lovely folks at Cornell in their career services, they share that public service at its core is about supporting communities, serving others, protecting the rights and interests of the public. So a lot of it is kind of like a helping profession. You're wanting to serve and support people. Now, the two main categories of employers with public service, it might be kind of obvious to some folks, but I think our initial idea of an employer is thinking it's the government. We work for the city, the state, the federal government. So that would be considered the public sector. So some folks are like public service, public sector, but also acknowledging that nonprofits are also a large space as well. Because when we're thinking about how are we serving our community, how are we serving the public, quite honestly, that can be in all of those sectors, right? It can be in the private sector as well, but we primarily see it in the nonprofit and government sector. So we're looking at organizations or government agencies that are able to serve communities. So similar to maybe the first question, what does public service mean to you? Why do you want to go into public service and policy? So this is the next Mentimeter question. So if you already have it up on your phone, hopefully you just swipe. If not, sorry, you might have to log back in. This is kind of giving you a little bit of a structure. So if you have an answer that is not on here, I'd love to hear it. You could put it in the chat. But it's kind of looking at it in a Likert scale. Here are some different options that a lot of folks tend to consider. Is it impacting policy, laws, and government? Social change, social justice. Maybe you really, really care about climate change, or you care about um, racial justice or gender issues, helping your local community. I think a lot of folks are compelled to help the direct community they're in. Ooh, that was fast. That was fun to look at. Oh, it's moving in real time. Serving people globally. There's some folks where they're like, I went to this one country once and that changed my mind about the world. We are living in such a small world sometimes when we don't leave the place that we grew up on. Once we're finally able to see the world internationally, you're able to see all the different challenges that folks are going through. I like that some people have an honest answer of it's a secure job and a career, meaningful and mission-oriented work. Yeah, and some personal experience with challenging systems. So majority of our answer is helping local community and doing meaningful and mission-oriented work. And that's nice to know that a lot of folks that are going into that profession as well are wanting to also be mission-oriented. I think that makes a very huge difference in your workspace. Thanks for joining that. So, yes, just kind of reiterating, a lot of people who are going into public service and policy, they want to make change, they're mission-oriented, they want to make the world a better place. So this is a good place for people who want to be change makers. So now I'm segueing into talking about, okay, great. We know that we're passionate about it. We know we want to do it. How do I find a job? So here's a little bit the tangible steps in being able to explore careers. Here's some different tactics in figuring out how to explore what jobs are out there. Some of you might have been able to go to fairs or be able to go to the Career and Internship Center. Here are just a couple of other helpful tips. I think the first initial thing that people think about is, I'm going to Google it. Public service job, Google. Or now I think people are using ChatGPT more. So like, what are jobs in public service and policy? Maybe you're looking it up on TikTok. Honestly, intaking media at a reasonable amount, pace yourself. But just researching, just using what you have in front of you to look up, okay, what are different organizations that care about climate change? What are different organizations that care about housing? Just kind of do some general perusing and searching on the internet. Some more specific ways that you can get connected to folks is maybe you ask to job shadow. This is, I think, kind of intimidating for folks to job shadow. So maybe you could start with someone that you have a closer relationship with. Maybe it's a family member or a family friend that is working in something that you're interested in. I think it's important to be able to see the day-to-day because there's quite a lot of people who end up doing, say, a clinical rotation in their nursing classes, and they realize, wow, I don't like blood. So maybe nursing is not for me. So I think job shadowing can be really helpful to see the reality of what the day-to-day looks like, and if you feel like that's for you. A smaller piece and kind of version of job shadowing is maybe doing an informational interview. This could be chatting for 30 minutes or an hour with maybe a professor, maybe a guest speaker. I think guest speakers are an awesome opportunity to connect with folks from different places. So if a guest speaker comes to your class and you like what they're saying and you like what they're about, I really encourage you to, after class, go up to them, say thank you for what you shared. I'd love to talk to you more about what you do. Maybe you get their email and exchange your contact information. And that's just kind of the beginning of starting that network. But it doesn't have to be, I'm going to spend an entire day with a stranger. It could be, let's just have a conversation, or even just getting the practice of telling people, thank you for your talk. I really like what you do. And then maybe you ask for their business card. It could be a step just like that. Or if you have a another career connection, so maybe if you are double majoring or in taking classes in another department, you can always ask about alumni connections. So if you are curious to talk with some folks that have been in the Evans School programs that currently work in local government, that currently work in advocacy or education, that's a great way to start some informational interviews. You don't have to start from square one. And then another simple thing having to do with kind of the media that we intake on a daily basis, follow them on social media, follow them on LinkedIn. You might not be a LinkedIn person yet. That's okay. A lot of organizations have Instagrams. And if you don't yet follow WSDOT, which is the Washington State Department of Transportation, um, they're really funny. So if you haven't seen them, follow them. I don't think you'll regret it. And then you'll know, oh no, I can't take the I-5 tonight because they're doing construction. That's always a helpful thing. And then a little bit more of a specific platform that is made for this process of being able to explore specific jobs is O-Net. I'll say it's maybe not the most modern looking website, so give it some grace. What you can do on this website is you can quite literally look up any job title, or you can look it up in groups. I know that most of the time is you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what job title to look up because you're still getting used to it. You're able to look up groups of occupations as well. So like by career cluster, you're looking at public service and safety, and then they have some subclusters, local, state, and federal services. And over here, they'll have all these different job titles. So if you're just curious to know if I'm supposed to apply to jobs, what do I even look for? This is a good place to start. You don't need to look at every single one of them, but it is a good way to kind of get familiar with the titles so that when you are maybe looking at internships or applying to those jobs, you're able to be familiar with the titles because the use of the word analyst and the use of the word manager or community can be different in different fields. So getting familiar with the keywords is really helpful. And then you can click on these titles and you can find out the average salary and a little bit more of a description of what they're about. I think that's really helpful because maybe you're like, I really care about this particular thing. I want to do this job. Maybe Seattle is not the location for me with the salary that I might make. Or maybe, you're specifically looking for a particular salary in order to also support your family. Um, this kind of gives you a bit of an average to look at. Also can be used when you are negotiating your salary if you get that far in the interview process. So I want to talk a little bit about public service careers, and I have another quick video.
Let's talk about how to make a change. You may not even know what public service is, but here's the thing. The world of public service is huge, and there are places for everyone's different skills and talents. You can work inside a government agency designed to help our country, or you can work in the nonprofit space, providing direct community aid, or even applying pressures to those same government systems to change them from the outside. In public service, there's a way you can fit in and make the change that you want to see. So today, we're going to show you just a little slice of all the different things you can accomplish through a career in public service. Who goes into a public service career? Some people know they want to help others from a young age, but sometimes something unexpected tugs at you and influences you to change your path. You might have found this video because you're feeling a similar tug. For producer Scott Budnick, who made The Hangover, Hollywood life wasn't fulfilling his desire to help others, so he made the leap into activism where he now advocates for formerly incarcerated populations.
When I went into juvenile hall for my first time and met 14-year-olds like this kid David and asked him, how was your week? And he said, it was a real bad week. I just got sentenced to 300 years to life. And I'm sitting in there and like, not only do I have white privilege, but I have movie producer privilege. And I knew if like that was my kid, he would have the best lawyer in Los Angeles. He would be bailed out before he spent a night in jail. And he wouldn't be sitting there for 2 years facing this case. He'd be sleeping in the comfort of his bed because money buys justice, right? I remember sitting on a mountaintop in Vegas on Hangover 3, and like this would be like where everyone on earth would want to be, right? Bradley Cooper, Zach Galifianakis, the director, the cameras, the lights, the everything. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why am I here? I ended up leaving the business, taking a 90% pay cut, starting ARC, and it was hands down the best 5 years of my life. This is the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, so our mission is obviously like no more people going back to prison. So when someone comes home, there's a whole community to welcome them and to love them, and anything from housing to mentorship to careers to anything that someone needs when they come home from prison, leading with directly impacted people, which the vast majority of our staff are, and just like showing their hearts and showing their change and showing the impact that they can make on the world. The way it changes people in terms of how they see folks who once might have been a gang member or a criminal or a drug dealer or whatever it may be, to see who they are today. I think that storytelling piece is key.
In order to push for policy change like Scott's organization does, you need people on the ground leading grassroots movements. So if you want to be one of those people and you love community organizing or even just great storytelling, you might be interested in a career in community engagement.
By day, I'm Director of Community Engagement for the Transgender Justice Initiative at the Human Rights Campaign. My work is centered around trans people, Black people, and people who are living with HIV. And I coined a title a few years ago, Health and Equity Consultant, for the work that I do everywhere. There's nothing that says that I should have made it. I'm Black, I'm overweight, I live in the South, I'm transgender. You know, I could go on and on with my different intersectional identity. And the fact that I am succeeding, it is selfish of me not to use my privilege to help others as well. I think for many of us, particularly those of us who are multiply marginalized, access and opportunities are two of the things that keep us from success. And so if myself and others are able to provide greater opportunities, that's more access.
It's one of our fundamental rights as Americans, the right to an attorney. But what happens when you can't afford one? That's where legal aid lawyers come in, providing a public service by making sure that everyone, no matter how much money they have, has the right to representation.
For our clients who come in, they don't pay anything. It's not a sliding fee scale. It's none of that. The services we provide are absolutely free to them. We provide services in a wide variety of areas, but it's all civil. So everything from evictions, landlord-tenant problems, to I didn't get my food stamps, or how much in food stamps should I be getting? Because I was so strong in my belief that the reason I was doing this was to be able to help those who wouldn't be able to get the help otherwise. That just stayed strong on my angel side. The other side would be like, oh, but you can make a lot more money, or you could do this. And I'd be like, nah, not me.
This is probably one of the most well-known public service jobs, but we still wanted to cover it because it's so impactful. Plus, within the world of firefighting, there are tons of specializations, from inspectors to public information officers. And if you love leading people, maybe you'd like to someday be a fire chief, like Reginald Freeman.
My name is Reginald Freeman. I am the fire chief for the city of Oakland with 37 fire chiefs. I was only in the fire service for roughly 5 years before I became a chief officer. Obviously, it's fast-paced, being a metro fire chief. At 37 years old in Hartford, I was sworn in as the youngest fire chief in the country. Yeah. And now at 42, here in Oakland, I'm still the youngest metro fire chief in the country.
That's amazing.
It's a profession to where you get to serve and be of service, and to uphold the patch and the badge in an honorable fashion. There's nothing like it. I'm very passionate about people and passionate about serving. And to be a firefighter, you have to be passionate of both. So it was a perfect fit for me.
If you really want to make a difference, but don't know where to start, you may want to look into AmeriCorps. Since 1993, this government agency has helped volunteers and service members across the country get connected with nonprofit, faith-based, and community organizations who need help to tackle local problems. The work is wide-ranging, but it can help you find your niche in service, like Victoria Kwong, who found a surprising new interest.
Communities Rebuilt is sustainable construction building houses for underserved people or people that are close to getting a home but just can't afford that expense.
Currently, I'm an apprentice with Community Rebuilds, doing like this AmeriCorps position with them. This past June is when I was placed here to work on like sustainable and like natural building. I wanted to just be involved with the housing crisis in America. This organization works for that in a safe and sustainable way. The work is meaningful, and the people that it draws, that's the people that I want to be with. We've only scratched the surface.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that brought some ideas that maybe you hadn't thought about. Kind of moving on to the job search itself, some things I wanted to share some tips on. Maybe you already know this and you're experts. But one thing that really is probably the most helpful right now is turning on job notifications. So when you are looking at certain job boards, so I'm talking about maybe it is governmentjobs.gov, maybe you are looking at Handshake or LinkedIn, you can filter out what types of jobs that you are interested in, maybe by category, maybe by title. And some of these job boards are able to send a quick email summary to you of the jobs that have just been posted or are available. So especially if you are interested in working for any government agency or organization, those applications open for a very short period of time. Sometimes it is just 2 weeks. And then sometimes once they hit capacity, they close the position. So that's why these notifications in real time can be really helpful. I also suggest that if you have like a dream organization or there's companies or organizations that you admire or would love to work for someday, turning on notifications for them as well. If you are able to go to their careers page or job page, sometimes they have that option. So even down the line, you're able to maybe like 5 years from now, you're like, I followed the National Park Service and now I love parks. I would love to work there. And you find a job posting that happens 5 years later. It can be a really, really helpful tool, working kind of passively behind the scenes. So you're not actively having to search all the time. Something is networking, and I think acknowledging that networking can be a scary word, but if you have worked somewhere formerly, it could be on campus, it could be your summer job. Keeping up with those folks can be really helpful and impactful in the future, either in your future jobs or to help you find a future job. So a good amount of the jobs that I've applied for, I've known someone that has some affiliation or works with someone in that office, and I'm able to kind of use my network a little bit just to hear maybe more about the job. And in my current job, I'm actually able to connect with folks I've worked with in the past and bring them on as panelists or have them share some of their experience with some of our students. So that's an example of how your former network can impact your current job and your current space right now. And you can use that to help you build your network for the future. Don't rule out temporary or part-time jobs. This can be a stepping stone. I know that oftentimes when folks are getting to the point of graduating and you are looking for that first job after graduation, you can feel like things are maybe not working out for you because you're like, some people are getting these dream jobs at Microsoft and they're working for these big companies right out of graduation. But, part-time and temporary work and internships, fellowships, those can be great stepping stones to your work. I think knowing that that just won't happen for everyone to get your dream job right out of graduation, and it can feel like you're supposed to. Know that that's not the case, that a lot of people are still exploring and find themselves in new jobs in areas that they weren't expecting. So, don't sleep on these types of jobs because they can change your life potentially and change your career trajectory. And then another helpful tip when searching, and this again might be self-explanatory, but create a spreadsheet or use some sort of a system. Maybe you use some sort of project management system like Notion or Google Tasks or things like that to help you track your applications. This can help you with tracking your deadlines and also maybe your listing on their salary so you can do comparisons when you're in that process. And here's kind of a long list. You're welcome to take a photo of it from this PowerPoint. But here's some jobs that I've seen folks either acquire or are applying to, specifically if they're connected to the Evans School. Maybe they're in the MPA program or they're studying public policy. I think the obvious ones are government official. Sometimes it's the policy analyst, budget analyst. But like we learned about, there's also different terminology like community manager, development manager, philanthropist, advocate, housing advocate. So sometimes being able to know some of these keywords are helpful in that job search. And then I wanted to make a quick note of AI and ChatGPT use. Folks are using it as a tool. Again, I really recommend using it as a prompter tool for inspiration and guidance, not to do your work for you. I think particularly in this area, in the public sector, folks are seeing the increase of ChatGPT in writing the materials for people, and some of the materials are starting to look the same. And at times it can make folks maybe want to discredit that or even discard that application. So I think be mindful that you're using it as a tool to help inspire you and guide you, maybe to help get some information to help you write your resume or to help you write your cover letter. But just be mindful to review it and sound like you, sound like a person. Never just copy and paste. And then for those that are maybe going into government work later on, I'm sure we'll know a lot more about AI and ChatGPT in the next few years, but don't submit personal and confidential information when you are using AI for your purposes. And then if you ever have an NDA, definitely do not submit things in AI if you have a non-disclosure agreement. And here are some extra resources, UW resources. So I am not with the Central Career and Internship Center. I am the career person for the Evans School. So if you have general questions about career and are looking to go to large career fairs, the UW Career Center has that. If you are looking for specific advice having to do with this field with public service and policy, I'm here to help. Here are some external resources for career development. And then I wanted to share some identity-specific resources. So if you are part of a club or a part of an RSO or a student interest group, this is basically professional versions of those. So if you are looking to find an affinity group, a group where you have similar identities, but are looking for that support in the professional world, there are some associations that can be of that support. They can be your starting network as well. And then I wanted to note that for those that are undergrad students, if you're trying to figure out, okay, I know I care about this, I know I am passionate about it, maybe it is too late for you to declare as a major, maybe you are you want to keep your major and your minor, but you still want to be involved in some way. Or maybe you're at the beginning of trying to understand where you are. An easy kind of low stakes thing is maybe take a PubPol class. So PubPol stands for public policy. Maybe you're taking just one just to see if you like it. We have lots of different events with the Evans School. So maybe it's attending an event with a classmate, with a friend, just seeing if this is the environment and the people and the community that you want to be a part of. And then some more kind of higher engagement opportunities is specifically for undergrad. There is a program called NextGen, and they run all year and have lots of different programming. And you can go to this QR code to learn more about it. And we also have something connected with the Evans School, and we host is Summer Policy Academy. And that's an intensive getting to learn about policy, getting to hear from experts and work with people that are also really passionate. And then probably the highest level of commitment right now is declaring as a major or a minor. Do we have any Evans minor major students? Maybe I can't see your face right now. Ooh, I see a heart. Okay, great. Highest level of commitment. Amazing. Super fan. So if you are still trying to figure out how do I get involved or I'm at a starting stage, feel free to, kind of start out here or attend a next gen event. I think they have stuff kind of all year round. So I wanted to wrap up here and say thank you for listening to me talk and for listening to the YouTube videos talk. Do you have any questions or are there things that folks would like to share? I'm happy to also chat separately, one-on-one in an appointment. Yeah, Addison, go ahead.
I just want to quickly ask, sorry, I was a little late to the meeting. I got in like 5 minutes after it started. Was anything covered in that 5 minutes?
No, pretty much just an introduction.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions or thoughts that they want to share from the presentation, or is there something I didn't cover that you were expecting from this? Okay. Well then, if you have a question, you are welcome to email evansjob@uw.edu. I am the person that monitors that email, so you will get an answer from me. You are welcome to set up an appointment to chat with me about what this all means, or if you are a major or minor student and you're like, I just need some help to get there. What is my next step? I take appointments on Handshake, so you're welcome to go ahead and go on Handshake for that. But thank you so much for joining for this small, intimate, lovely discussion. And I hope to see you in the future at some other things. So have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy the sun. The sun is still out. Farewell.